All right, let's get started. May 1st, NHL playoff games. Before we jump right into it, though, I just wanted to say if you happen to be one of those viewers who watches but hasn't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. First up, we have the Carolina Hurricanes beat the New York Islanders 5-2. They now take a commanding 3-0 series lead. And the last team to sweep in the first round but get swept in the second round, which might happen to New York, was the Buffalo Sabres in 1993. Little interesting stat for you. And before then, it was the 1972 and 1970 Chicago Blackhawks. The Islanders just don't have the offense going. They don't have the bounces. I know they're out-chancing Carolina, which is the craziest thing. Carolina is just putting away their opportunities. That's all there is to it. Let's start with the scoring. In the first, Teravainen gets on the board, his fourth of the season, assisted by Slavin and Hamilton, and then Islanders tie it up. Taves gets a goal on the power play, assisted by Bailey and Eberle. Carolina looked horrible on this penalty kill. So things didn't really start to look good because you thought, okay, Islanders got the momentum and yada yada. But you know, again, you couldn't blame McElhinney, who was starting again in this game, as was Leonard for the New York Islanders. Again in the second, Hurricanes go ahead 2-1 on a goal from Folk, assisted by Foegele and Stahl. This is a beautiful goal because Folk actually, Carolina was killing a penalty, and at the end of the penalty, Folk came out of the penalty box, and Foegele just flipped the puck up in the air. And Folk grabbed it, dropped it at his feet, went in alone, and just went backhand up high, stick side on Robin Leonard. Gorgeous goal. And 2-1. Then, back come the Islanders. Bailey gets this goal. And I want to say this was like a tip or seeing eye shot. Bailey gets his fourth of the season, assisted by Kuhnhackl. Now, the interesting thing about this is where the big shenanigan of the night happens, where Brock Nelson is near the front of the net, kind of screening the goalie at the time of the shot. And when that goes in, he raises his hands and then skates by McElhinney and taps him on the head. As to say, tag you're it, kind of thing. Duck, duck, goose, whatever. Now, at the time, I was pretty upset about this. I played hockey, but I played forward. I just couldn't afford the goalie equipment because I was a goalie at heart. Whenever I was playing street hockey, 90% of the time I was a goalie. I'm big on goalies, blah, blah. In any case, I found that disrespectful. And it's not like he got shot or anything. I just thought, he's a 35-year-old goalie too. And this is what, McElhinney's only his second playoff game that he's ever started, and he's 35 years old, and he got his second win. In any case, Twitter just exploded, and people went back and forth. Islanders were gloating about it, but I have to say, I think if it was any other goalie, if it was Robin Leonard for that matter, especially him, or Ben Bishop, for example, who played tonight, or Binnington, because Binnington apparently has a temper as well. We'll get into that later. Or any of the other goalies, any other series, who are we talking about? Rask and Bobrovsky. If that happens to any of those other goalies, they'd be pretty upset. I'm not talking not quite Ron Hextall upset. Ron Hextall would be me if someone did that to me. my stick would turn into an axe. I would just immediately, I'd be this Ed Belfour, Hextall, crazy man, be going after that guy. But in any case, the hockey gods saw this because in the third period, Justin Williams basically scores the game-winning goal, his second of the playoffs, assisted by Aho. How many game-winning goals does this guy have right now? I know he leads the NHL. Like, he's the first. I think maybe Doug Gilmour second or third. In any case, Justin Williams already leads the league by, I want to say, at least 2 goals. And although, Carolina did score 2 more, which were empty netters, he got the game winner in this one. And it was it was the hockey gods looking down and saying, "Serve you right." And who was it? Carolina sent out Hurricanes sent out a tweet saying they wanted to play tag, we wanted to play hockey. And during the halftime, I was watching it on Sportsnet with Ron McLean and Kelly Rudy and Nick Kyprios and Elliot Friedman. There was a discussion, and Kelly Rudy obviously thought it should have been that tap on McElhinney's head should have been an unsportsmanlike penalty, and that there should be some retribution for it. And Kyprios didn't, and there was a bit of an argument there. And Kyprios was saying, well, he's like, listen, if it's, if he does it again, okay. Or if it's a player like Marchand, for example, then you give him a penalty. But a guy like Brock Nelson, he doesn't really do that. That's something you can kind of, glaze over. And, they agreed to disagree and so on and so forth. But there was a little bit of tension in the broadcasting room there. We move on. Teravainen gets an empty netter, his 5th of the season, assisted by Pesce and Slavin, and then Aho makes it 5-2. He gets his 3rd of the season, assisted by Walmark. During the second intermission, Kelly Rudy was commenting on how great of a game Aho was having, and that he hasn't really showed up offensively, but he's been playing really well defensively, and he has, especially in this game too. He saved a couple of goals. But he called him Aho at one point, and he couldn't stop laughing. He realized what he did. His eyes popped out of his head, and he just started cackling. He couldn't stop. And Elliot Friedman just had to be like, "Okay, so moving on. Let's keep going here." Anyways, I just thought that was funny. Let's get into the team stats here. Faceoffs were 34-24 for the Hurricanes. Power play was 1 for 3 for the Islanders, 0 for 2 for the Hurricanes. That first Islander power play in the first period, in which Taves scored, was pretty good, and the Hurricane penalty kill was very passive. So it was a combination of one being good, one being awful. But then it almost completely flopped. Carolina's power play just stank, but their penalty kill just was stellar from then on in, and the Islanders just couldn't penetrate it. Carolina was much more aggressive, really. Hits were 28-25 for the Islanders. Carl Clutterbuck, I want to say he was carried off the ice 1 or 2 games ago by his teammates, and he came out and he was hitting everything, especially in the first and second period. He made Martin look like a pylon, his teammate out there, and Martin didn't really have a good game on top of that either. But giveaways in this one. Islanders had 14, Hurricanes had 10. Takeaways were 18-10 for the Hurricanes. They're good at that. Block shots, we had 17-16 for the Hurricanes. Shots overall, first period, were 11-10 for Carolina, 14-12 for Carolina in the second, and in the third, it was 13-8 for Carolina. So for 38-30 overall in that game, Carolina, as they most usually do, outshoot their opponents. The 3 stars in this game. Williams was number 1 with the game winner with the 1 goal. His plus minus was even. He had only 14.06 of ice time, which is reasonable, I guess, for 37 years old right now. Who knows? He may retire this season if, let's say, they win the cup. That's not a crazy statement right there. If they win the cup, Williams might retire after this season. Quite possible. It would be a good way to go. Slavin gets a 2nd star. He gets 2 apples. He's a +2. He gets 26-12 of ice time. He had a fantastic game. Really good defensively. As did Falk, who took the 3rd star, who had 1 goal. That he scored that alley-oop goal in the second period after coming out of the penalty box. And he was a +2, and he played over 23 minutes of ice time. The goalies in this one, McElhinney, of course, got the save. Saved 28 of 30 shots with a .933 save percentage. He's now 2-0 in his only 2 playoff games. He looked good. He didn't really let in a bad goal. They were tips, or he was just completely screened. And that was it. Leonard, I want to say one of them, Carolina's first goal he should have had. It sort of just stopped at the post beside of his net, and he wasn't reacting fast enough. He didn't seem that mobile laterally. So I don't know what's going on there. Maybe it's time, during the intermission, the commentators were saying maybe it's time to put Greiss in, because at no point during the regular season did Leonard play more than 4 games in a row. And so we might see Greiss for the next game. In any case, and for the second goal, was it the first goal or the second goal? No, it was the second, or was it the third? The third Carolina goal. I'm all over the place here. The third Carolina goal, this was directly Leonard's. It was a giveaway by Leonard to a Carolina player, who then took advantage, and he had no chance on the ensuing shot. So there you have it. He had a .917 save percentage. Not horrible in this game. He's now 4-3 in the playoffs. Let's move on to the next game. The Dallas Stars beat the St. Louis Blues 4-2. This series is tied 2-2. Dallas is not going away. And now they've got 2 steady scoring lines. Because in this game, that big line of, here we go, Radulov, Seguin, and Ben was split up. And they made lines. They put Seguin, they gave him Zuccarello and Dickinson as wingers, and they had a great night. And Ben and Radulov played in between, help me out here, Heinz. And they also had a very good game. I am going to get some water. Hold on 1 second. Oh, here we go. All over my mouth. Okay. That's better. Okay. And the St. Louis Blues, after they scored their first goal, because they were ahead 1-0, and then Dallas scored 4 straight goals, they didn't have any legs to their game. Maybe they had a few shifts in the second period, and the third period they looked good, but it was too little too late. And that's about it. Let's look at the scoring here. In the first, Tarasenko gets that power play goal, assisted by Dunn and O'Reilly, and that's his 5th of the season. And I believe in this series, the Blues have 4 power play goals, and they're all Tarasenko's. And one of the commentators, I believe her name is Kendall from NBC, goes, she mentioned that stat, and she's like, so if you want to stop St. Louis power play, cover Tarasenko. That's how you do it. What an astute observation. Then Dallas goes on a tear here. Dickinson gets his 3rd of the season, assisted by Seguin and Zuccarello, and then Spezza gets on the board on the power play, a slap shot from the point. Binnington didn't. I don't think he let in a bad goal. A lot of these were tips, 2-on-1 breakaways, odd man rushes. Really hard to blame him on any of these. Second period, Klenberg gets a goal, his 2nd of the playoffs, assisted by Seguin and Zuccarello, who are now racking up a couple points each. Heinz makes it 4-1 with his 5th goal of the playoffs, assisted by Ben and Radulov. Radulov now has a multi-point game. And this is where a little bit of shenanigans start in this game. Because Perron from the Blues slashes... At some point here, he slashes Ben Bishop, in the back. And Ben Bishop goes down like he just got shot. Now, it was hard to tell how hard he hit Bishop. And there's there isn't a lot of padding in the back area. So I'm not saying Bishop dove, but he looked like he went down pretty hard, and he didn't look like he swinged at him that hard. So... anyways, it's debatable. He in any case, he slashed the goaltender in the back. He should have got a penalty. The ref didn't see it, and people took a number, because then Ben, towards the end of the second, got in Binnington's face. And I didn't know this, but Binnington has got quite a temper, because when he was playing in the AHL, in the playoffs for St. Louis's AHL team versus the Dallas Stars AHL team, there was a bit of a brawl there where he took off his mask, threw his gloves aside, and he was throwing punches. So there's a way to get to this guy, this rookie goaltender. And in any case, so Ben got in his face, and he smacked Ben, and the ref ended up giving Binnington 2 penalties and gave Ben 1. So Dallas had another power play because of it. And then the third period came along, and St. Louis all of a sudden found their legs. Was it Robert Thomas? Robert Thomas was probably the most consistent Blues player all night long. O'Reilly had a steady O'Reilly kind of game, although he's been losing a lot in the face-off circle, especially to Sagan. O'Reilly, if you don't know, is usually around top 7 in the league in face-offs during the regular season, and he's getting killed by Sagan right now, which is odd. But I guess, every player's got their kryptonite. But Robert Thomas has had an amazing game. He gets the second goal for the Blues, assisted by Peter Angelo and O'Reilly. And that's how the sort of thing ends. St. Louis, pulls their goalie, but nothing happens with it. And there's no empty net goals. And it's now a best-of-3 series. The team stats on this one, face-offs were 35-23 for Dallas. Power play, Dallas was 1 for 2. St. Louis was 1 for 3. Hits were 31-28 for the Stars. Giveaways, Dallas had 15 as opposed to St. Louis's 14. As I mentioned earlier, it seemed that St. Louis should have had a lot more than that. I'm not sure how accurate that is, because there are a lot of giveaways on their part that started odd man rushes. 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, that kind of thing. And they were giving Dallas the middle of the ice, the high danger zone, almost free reign there, which they haven't been doing for most of the playoffs, actually, and the last, since January. Next category, takeaways here, were 7-5 for Dallas. Block shots were 20-10 for Dallas. So a much bigger improvement on the Stars' part. What was his name? Jim Montgomery, the coach. He obviously made some changes after last game, mixed up the lines, and there's 2 potent lines in Dallas now. If they can keep that up, St. Louis, this could be a 7-game series. I still think St. Louis is going to take this, but we'll see. Shots in this game. Dallas, in the first period, took it 12-8. They also took it in the second, 14-9. St. Louis outshot the Stars 12-5 in the third, and the overall shots were 39-29 for the Dallas Stars. The goalies in this, Bishop was saved 27-29. He had a .931 save percentage. He's now 6-4. Binnington saved 27-31 with a .871 save percentage. It's hard to blame him, I want to say, on almost all those shots. Not sure if there's not one I'd call a bad goal, but in any case, he's now 6-4 as well. 3 stars of the game are all Dallas Stars. First star was Sagan with 2 assists and a +1 and just under 22 minutes of ice time. Second star, Jamie Benn with 1 assist, 2 penalty minutes, a +1 and 16 minutes and 37 seconds of ice time. Not much for your captain and star power forward. I know his line, him and Radulov basically became the second line, but I know he sat for killing one of those penalties. He sat in the penalty box, but still that seems low. And Zuccarello gets the third star with 2 apples, a +1, and is just under 18 minutes of ice time. There you have it. I would really love to hear what your thoughts are on this game, especially when it comes to the shenanigans in the Islanders game, that whole duck, duck, goose thing. Do you think that should have been a penalty? How do you think the Islanders would have reacted if that happened to Leonard? What would have Leonard done? And, of course, some of the shenanigans in the Dallas Stars game, which could get worse. Now that Dallas knows that Binnington is a hothead, who knows? If you like this video, hit that like button. If you really liked it, smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. And hey, if you happen to have any Hockey Geek friends, please don't feel shy about sharing. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.